Okay. Wait, before you go into your final 2 or 3, go to Abby.
Do you have anything on reports of a U.S. citizen, Robin Shahini, being sentenced to 18 years in Iran?
Oh, all right. We are troubled by reports that Robin or Reza Shahini, a person reported to be a U.S. citizen, may have been convicted and sentenced to 18 years in prison. We reaffirm our calls on Iran to respect and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms, cease arbitrary and politically motivated detentions, and ensure fair and transparent judicial proceedings in all criminal prosecutions consistent with its laws and its international obligations.
So, can I follow up on that?
Yes.
This keeps happening over and over and over again. I'm presuming that the Secretary is still taking the opportunity whenever he speaks to Foreign Minister Zarif to raise cases of detained and missing Americans in Iran. Is that true? Is my presumption correct?
Yes.
So, has it crossed any? Excuse me. Has it yet? I realize that you guys are insistent and make an argument that the sequencing of what happened in terms of January and the release of the U.S. prisoners, return of the money to Iran, that money was not a ransom. But given the fact that this keeps happening, Iranian Americans keep being arrested and keep being convicted in Iran, has it occurred to anyone here that despite your best efforts to convince the Iranians and the rest of the world that these payments weren't ransom, that in fact they regard them as ransom, and they have had the effect, the payments have had the effect of this kind of thing continuing to happen?
Matt, I can't possibly get into the heads of Iranian officials. I can't speak to their motivations on this. What I can say, again, is that we do not pay ransom. We don't pay ransom. We didn't then. We don't now. We're not going to change that policy going forward. And we're going to continue to raise our concerns with Iranian officials about the detained citizens there. That's not going to stop. We're also going to continue to call on Iran to respect and protect human rights and to ensure fair and transparent judicial proceedings. I would remind you that we continue to maintain sanctions related to Iran's human rights abuses. We continue to support the annual UN General Assembly resolution and the mandate for the UN Special Rapporteur on human rights in Iran. Let me finish. And we address human rights violations and abuses in international religious freedom, human rights, and trafficking in persons reports. So nobody's turning a blind eye here. But what may be behind this, I don't think any of us know with certainty.
Right, but are you at least able to conceive of the idea that an Iranian perception, if in fact there is one, but that a perception in Iran that they successfully took and held Americans, then released them, and at the same time received millions and millions and millions of dollars in cash, that their perception of that being perhaps ransom is contributing to what is the continued arrest and conviction of American citizens in their country?
I would say, again, I can't speak to the motivation behind these detentions, but if there's a perception out there, if one of the motivations were to secure ransom, it is a false perception. It is wrong. It is. We are not going to. We haven't changed our policy. We're not going to change it forward. So, if somebody in Iran thinks that that's what's behind this, or that that's what makes for good decisions, they are patently wrong.
John, there's also a report that Iran wants a $4 million ransom in exchange for Nizar Zaka. This is the Lebanese citizen and permanent resident of the United States that, by the way, was on a job as a U.S. contractor when he was
I think we've already
take
spoken to his, to this particular case, but.
No, I know
but-
you've
but
spoken about the case, but the Iranians now want $4 million for his release. So
I haven't
it just
seen
goes
that-
to Matt's point.
I haven't seen that report.
They see these Americans as cash cows, and it's only likely to continue.
I haven't seen that report, but again, I go back to what I said. If the motivation is driven by quote-unquote ransom, it's a false motivation.
Are you looking to strengthen your travel warnings? I mean, I know that there's already travel warnings out for
The
Americans
travel
traveling.
warnings are already pretty starkly written.
Well,
with
is there
respect to
anything,
Iran.
do you have any, they keep seizing these Americans, is there anything
I think
you
we've
can do?
been nothing but honest with the American people about the risks of travel to Iran. Thanks, everybody.
You say, though, that this is false motivation, but anyone, whatever the motivation is, it's their motivation. It's not yours
Which
to
is
say
why
that
I
it's
said I couldn't
incorrect.
speak to their motivation,
Yeah,
Matt,
well,
but that doesn't mean that.
I know, but you
I'm-
don't
I'm-
understand that if
let me
someone-
let me disabuse anybody in Iran that thinks that if
Yes,
the reason
please
for
do.
detaining American citizens is to achieve a ransom, I want to disabuse them of that notion,
So
that
they're not
that
gonna
is
get
not.
any more, there are no more prisoner swaps that are gonna involve
We are
money.
always working to obtain the release of Americans detained unjustly in Iran. I'm not going to speak to our efforts in that regard, but we do not pay ransom, and that policy is not going to change.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am not at liberty to discuss that. Thanks.